The Texas Rangers have had one of the busiest off seasons in recent memory, and that comes 1 year after spending over $500 million on Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, John Gray, and those type of players. They go out this year and get Jacob DeGrom, Nate Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney. They re-sign Martin Perez on a 1 year deal with the qualifying offer. They've done a nice job revamping that starting staff, bringing in Jake Odorizzi, yet they still have some questions to answer as we head into the 2023 Major League Baseball season. Join us over the next few minutes as we kind of discuss what their next steps are going to be, what their rotation is going to look like. Do they go with a 5-man or a 6-man rotation? Who's going to be their closer? Who's going to start in left field for them? All that we'll break down for you next. Now, the Texas Rangers, as I mentioned, have really done a nice job improving their starting pitching. However, one of their biggest issues, of course, was winning in one-run games. Last year, they were 15-30, had the lowest win percentage in one-run games last year by a mile, and that's been a consistent trend over the last couple of years. Now, their starting pitching has a lot to do with that. Their offense was, pretty much a little bit above league average last year. They have some good mashers in that lineup, and it should improve now that the shift is going away, as a lot of teams' offenses should really improve as well. But Corey Seager had 25 hits taken away by the shift last year, by far the most in Major League Baseball. I think the next closest was 17, and so his batting average would have raised, I believe, from 245 to 287. His slugging percentage would have been around 500. That would have been some healthy improvement. He would have been right up there as one of the top 5 shortstops in the game. As it stands, he was still in the top 10, even with those struggles. Now, what have they done so far? The Texas Rangers have added to the starting staff. Remember last year they had John Gray and Martin Perez. Martin Perez was on a 1-year, $4 million deal. This year he's going to be on a 1-year, $19.65 million deal to stay with the Rangers. I wonder if Martin Perez puts up another consistent year, much like he did last year. Then we're looking at something similar as far as contract, to a Carlos Rodon type deal from this offseason. So keep your eyes peeled for how Martin Perez does this season as to whether or not he's able to get that type of a deal after the year is over. But at the top of the rotation, 5 years, $185 million to Jacob DeGrom with a 6-year option in there as well. That could take the deal north of $200 million. If he's able to stay healthy, this is a much different team already just off of the top. He is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball when healthy, and it's not close. The second pitcher they brought in, of course, was Andrew Heaney and Jake Odorizzi. Jake Odorizzi they brought in from a trade from the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta's eating $10 million of his salary. Rangers are only paying him $2.5 million. He's probably not going to be in the starting rotation to start the year. He will probably be the long man out of the bullpen, probably fill in for whenever somebody does get injured in that rotation. That tells you all the depth that they've required this offseason. Andrew Heaney was brought in on a 2-year deal, opt out after the first year. If he's able to stay healthy and be able to perform like he did in LA, he probably will opt out. The Rangers could then extend him a qualifying offer, much like they did Perez this offseason, but we'll see how things work out for the Rangers. Rangers would love for him to opt out after this year because that would mean he's basically worth every single penny that they would have paid him this year. The trends that we saw with the LA Dodgers over 70 innings where his strikeout numbers were way up, ERA was down, the walks were down as well. If he's able to replicate that performance where he was striking guys out at a Jacob DeGrom type level, then we could really see something moving forward for the Texas Rangers. That doesn't include one of their other starting pitching ads, which was Nate Eovaldi. He's kind of the workhorse out of that rotation right now, outside of Perez. When healthy, he's able to pitch, big innings, those types of things. He's got the, playoff pedigree and all that with him as well. He's a little bit different type of a pitcher than the other pitchers that they brought in as far as their stuff, etc. He's a little bit different in that way, and so we'll see how this rotation works out. But as far as how it looks right now, it looks like DeGrom will be your 1, Perez your 2, Eovaldi your 3, Heaney your 4, and Gray your 5. Kind of split it up however you like, but Gray, when healthy, is also very effective. We saw that last year in the second half of the season. Gray had all kinds of miscellaneous issues, injury issues in the first half of the season, blister, forearm, etc. One small injury after another. Finally, he was able to get healthy towards this back half of the season, and we started to see some of that improvement, some of that chutzpah, if you will, out of that rotation. And having Gray in there as a number 4 or 5 option, wherever you decide to slot him, that means your rotation significantly improved from where it was last year, because John Gray and Martin Perez were pretty much all you had in that rotation. Otherwise, you're looking at Glenn Otto and Spencer Howard and Cole Ragans, and it just wasn't pretty. They still have those guys in house. Those guys are now depth options at the AAA level or going into the bullpen next season, and they still have plenty of starting pitching on the way as well. Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, Owen White. There's a number of starters that they're going to have coming through the pipelines that they could trade from that position of strength to solve one of their holes. Now, of course, last year, the Silver Slugger in the American League was Nate Lowe at first base. Simeon's your second baseman. Corey Seager's your shortstop. Those spots are all locked up. Third base is going to be taken over by Josh Young. We thought he was going to win the job out of camp last year. Suffered an injury, was only able to play the final month of the season. Kind of struggled as far as avoiding the strikeout, but his power numbers were up and really hit well in the minor leagues a few weeks before he came up to the majors. I think a full offseason, recovering from his injury, getting back into playing every single day will work well for Josh Young as he enters his rookie season, if you will. In the center field, anyway, they have Leody Taveras, who had a nice first half of the season, really struggled in the second half, not nearly to the level of previous seasons, but a full, complete season for him in center. More consistency, being able to finish off the season, not letting the longevity of the season really affect his numbers as he gets into the dog days of summer and then into September. You need to maintain your level of performance all season long. That's where I think the Rangers are looking for from Leody Taveras entering the season. In right field, you have Adolis Garcia, barring a trade for another outfielder that needs to play right field, then he could flip over to left. But Adolis came over from the St. Louis Cardinals, I believe, as a waiver claim. Great job by the Rangers bringing him in, and what a great season he had. He's on a great cost-controlled contract. I think the Rangers have 4 more years of club control with him, and he is an older free agent when they brought him in. I believe he's going to end up being like 34, 35 when he finally hits free agency after his current contract. And what a great thing for the Rangers to find him and develop his talent there on the major league level when they were still trying to rebuild that organization. Catcher, anyway, they have a number of different options there. They have Jonah Heim there, who really kind of wore down as the season went on last year. They have Mitch Garver, who was out the second half of the year after suffering an injury in the first half, struggled as well offensively before that. They have Sam Huff, who struggled to get to maintain that level of production in the majors that we saw in the minors. Big time prospect, lots of power, etc. One of those catchers should probably be the everyday guy. I'm leaning towards Jonah Heim. And then we'll see one of them, probably Mitch Garver, play at DH the majority of the time, with Huff probably doing the backup catching, maybe playing some first base. Now, if you notice, they still have some holes. Left field, that's a big question mark. Are they going to go with an in-house option, whether it be Bubba Thompson, Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran? Duran's been working exclusively in the outfield this offseason, and so I'd imagine he's got first crack of the guys that are in-house to get that job. I think Bubba Thompson's a great speed guy, and I think, if you give him the job every single day, he'll play better, true, but I think you're not going to see top-end production out of, say, like Ezekiel Duran would give you. And so I think Bubba Thompson is probably going to be the 4th outfielder on this team entering the season. That, again, bars another acquisition from the outside. If they bring in a guy like Jerkson Profar to play every day in left, flex him around the infield, give other guys a day off, that would be one option. They no longer have Charlie Culberson, so Josh Smith probably fills that role currently on that team this year. But we'll see which option they go with. They brought in a number of guys with minor league contracts with invites to spring training, including Danny Duffy, who has a relationship with him from his time in Kansas City. He was the former starting pitcher there with the Royals, spent last year with the Dodgers, I believe, never really took the mound because of injuries, etc. So we'll see how he's able to rehab coming into the season. I imagine having Chris Young in your corner is very helpful to him, and that's why the Rangers were able to bring him in. They also brought in Clint Frazier, along with a number of other minor leaguers. They're also going to bring up a whole bunch of minor leaguers already under contract, just to see what kind of a spark they can give them, see if anybody really breaks out in camp and can make the baseball team. However, the one issue they still have is going to be in that bullpen. All that starting pitching is great, but if you can't close out the game, what is it good for? We saw the one-run game issues last year for the Rangers and the year before. They have a number of guys who've been closers in the past back there, Jose Leclerc, Barlow, etc., but nobody who's going to be, hey, I'm taking the ball, I'm going to close down this game. They don't have an Edwin Diaz. They used to have, what's his name, from the Cleveland Guardians, Emmanuel Clase, but they traded him in the Corey Kluber deal. Everybody thought the Rangers won the trade at the time. He ended up pitching 1 inning for the Rangers. Whoops. They would really like to have that one back, but they still need a closer. There's still some time for them to bring in a guy. There was some rumors that they could bring in a guy like Liam Hendriks, but of course he's been diagnosed with an illness. He will not be a guy the Rangers are after this season. Bednar of the Pirates could be had if they decide to make a big all-in type trade, go after Reynolds, Brian Reynolds for the left field spot, and bring in Bednar. That would cost a hefty haul in uh, minor league prospects. I don't think they'll end up doing it, but the prices are that high right now in the trade market. They could bring in somebody on the free agent market for that bullpen. Maybe bring back a Matt Moore. Maybe go after a Zach Britton to see if he's healthy. Aroldis Chapman just signed a 1-year, $3.5 million deal um, with the Kansas City Royals. So maybe there's some opportunity out there on the free agent market. So keep your eyes peeled for what could happen there. But their holes still on this team are left field and in that bullpen. Are they going to be able to convert some of those starters into relievers? There's some conversation at one of the fan fests that the Rangers just had this past week that Brock Burke, entering this offseason, was told, hey, he was a former starter with the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe. Really came up, had really nice success there. They made the trade to bring him into the Rangers. Had a pretty good success with his first go around with the Rangers, then had the injury, came back from injury, was dominant out of the bullpen this past year. They told him in this offseason, hey, stretch out a little bit. You'd probably be in the hunt to be one of our starters this season. Obviously, that's not likely to happen after all the investment they made this offseason in that starting rotation. He could be a guy that now flexes to that closer role. If he's as dominant as he was last year, he would be very good in that spot. But I wonder if they want to keep his multi-inning flexibility available to them, have him pitch more of a 7th, 8th inning role, something like that, 6th, 7th, 8th, and have him take a couple days off, run him out there again for another multi-inning appearance, something like that. But we'll see how they utilize that bullpen. Bruce Bochy is now the manager there. Mike Maddox is the pitching coach. A lot more veteran handling of their pitching staff should go a long way to making that team run a lot better. Chris Woodward and his mystifying use of the bullpen last year really worked to their detriment, and I think that had a lot to do with their record in one-run games. Bochy and Maddox there should help improve that already. Then bringing in another piece or allowing them to use that bullpen differently than they have in the past should make that bullpen work a little bit better as well. But let us know in the comment section what you think the Rangers are going to do. Do they go out there and sign a guy like Profar? Do they make a big trade for a guy like Kepler or Reynolds? Do they go the trade route and bring in a closer? Duran from the Twins is somebody I would really like to bring in, but they're trying to win right now. I don't think he'd be readily available, but somebody of that ilk would be of interest to the Texas Rangers. Bednar from the Pirates, he could be had because, again, not exactly a winning situation. Try to pry out the reliever if you can. There's a number of opportunities out there on the trade market as we get towards the Major League Baseball season. Pitchers and catchers reporting soon. World Baseball Classic this spring as well, forcing teams to make their decisions quicker. Now that most of the free agents are off the board, we could see a lot more trades as we get closer towards pitchers and catchers reporting. And as we get closer to the season, of course, if a team has an injury in their starting staff, the Rangers now have the ability to trade from that depth, trade them one of their depth options as far as a starting pitcher, even a Jake Odorizzi, for instance. $2.5 million for a guy who started over 230 games in his career. Innings eater type of pitcher, gives you solid production. We saw with Houston Astros, he was under 4. With the Braves, he was about 4.5 ERA. He's still a very productive pitcher in in the majors, and he's only on a 1-year deal for $2.5 million. And that'd be a great investment for a team if they lose a starter in spring training. Rangers could say, hey, here's your starting pitcher that could be your number 3 in your rotation, 3 or 4, and send us a good reliever back, and we'll get the trade done, or send us an everyday left fielder, something like that. But we'll see how they decide to go about it the rest of the way. But again, the holes for the Rangers, left field and closer. I'm curious if they decide to bring in a left fielder more than anything else. I think they will try to bring in at least one reliever. They did sign Ian Kennedy back. He had a horrible year last year with the Arizona Diamondbacks, but when he was with the Rangers before, he had nice success, parlayed that success into a trade to the Philadelphia Phillies midseason with Kyle Gibson. And we'll see if he finds the fountain of youth once again with the Rangers in his second go-round. But let us know in the comment section what you think they're going to do in left field. What do you think they're going to do with that closer spot? Ultimately, what do you think that record is going to be for the Texas Rangers? Where before the Fangraphs put out their projected win totals, Pagoda win totals, etc. Let us know what you guys think the Rangers are going to finish with the season with. I think they're going to be above 500 this year. I think the rotation additions that they've made, plus the progression of Adolis Garcia another year in the big leagues, Leody Taveras getting more time in the big leagues. Just the maturation of their young guys is going to help improve their team, and the shift going away. I think all these things are going to benefit the Rangers, and I think they'll probably finish above 82, 85 wins, somewhere in there, maybe even higher than that, depending on what they do with their bullpen and with their left field spot. But let us know in the comment section where you think they finish up the year. And as always, hit that subscribe button. Join us here on YouTube. We'll keep you guys updated from all the latest from MLB's hot stove season. The NBA trade deadline is a couple weeks away. You can check out a few of the videos that we put out over the last few days about that. The Super Bowl is about a couple of weeks away. We just saw the Philadelphia Eagles demolish the 49ers, and the Chiefs pull off a squeaker against the Bengals. Great championship games in both very different type of games anyway, but Super Bowl is right around the corner, and of course the NHL trade deadline and All-Star game are within a month anyway, so we'll see how things work out for the NHL. Some trade talks are already starting to happen. Matt Nieto just got traded to the Colorado Avs, and we'll be live for you guys again on February 9th for the NBA trade deadline. We'll be live for you guys when the NHL trade deadline happens as well. But thank you guys for joining us here at The Upside. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at UpsideSN and on Facebook at The Upside Sports Network. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.